This video is brought to you by MacBack. Today we're comparing the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra versus the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. Now I've used both of these phones extensively, and in this video we're going to find out which is the better buy. Is it going to be the S24 Ultra with its new features and improvements, or the now much more affordable S23 Ultra? As always, I will leave all the purchase links down in the description. Both phones feature this classic rectangular Galaxy Ultra design, but there are some key differences. So the S24 Ultra actually has a titanium frame, which is going to be more durable, as well as showing less fingerprints when compared to the shiny aluminum frame found on the S23 Ultra. In the hand, I found the S23 Ultra actually to be just a touch more comfortable, and this is thanks to the fact that it has slightly curved edges around the back as well as the display, but still, make no mistake, both of these phones are very big and substantial in the hand, to say the least. And then looking at the back, both phones have a matte glass back, but the S24 Ultra does have an advantage here as it uses Corning Gorilla Armor, and this is going to be more scratch resistant as well as crack resistant compared to the S23 Ultra's Gorilla Glass Victus 2. In terms of weight, these phones are of course on the heavier side, but between them they do weigh pretty much the same. Both are also IP68 water resistant, and this means that you can use them in the rain without refrain. Nice rhyme. A signature to the Ultra line is of course the S Pen, and in this case both phones feature the same S Pen both in terms of design as well as functionality. Turning to the displays, both phones feature a 6.8-inch OLED panel with a 1440p resolution and a 120Hz refresh rate, but these displays are not the same, and the biggest difference is going to be in the form. So the S24 Ultra actually features a flat display, and this is quite a change in design direction when compared to the S23 Ultra's curved display. Now, while the curved edges on the S23 Ultra's display do have a certain wow factor, when using the phone, I do sometimes get accidental touches along the edges. So personally, I do prefer the flatter, perhaps not as cool, but still very functional display on the S24 Ultra. Plus, it's also much easier to apply a screen protector to a flat display. But you may actually not need one on the S24 Ultra. Thanks to having Corning Gorilla Armor both on the back as well as on the front of the display, it is much more scratch and crack resistant compared to the S23 Ultra. And as you can see on my S23 Ultra, I definitely have some hairline scratches just from normal use, where by comparison on my S24 Ultra, after 2 months, it still looks perfect. So far, this really is looking good. Another big difference that really stood out to me is that the S24 Ultra does a much better job at showing less reflection. So you can see here in this example, if I point it towards the studio light that I have here off camera, you'll see it's much less visible here in the S24 Ultra compared to the S23 Ultra. And this difference is really noticeable, especially of course outdoors where you don't have those reflections of the sun or well, clouds if you were here in London. This does make the S24 Ultra so much easier to see and read and view, especially when you're looking at, say, maps outdoors or trying to read fine text. Speaking of outdoors, the S24 Ultra is also brighter, so it has a peak brightness of up to 2600 nits compared to 1750 nits on the S23 Ultra. Now, to be fair, the 23 Ultra is already very bright and still easy to see in all conditions, but the S24 Ultra is all the more brighter. Soon these phones really are going to start burning our eyes. Now, the only downside that I did notice with the S24 Ultra's display is that you get a little bit more off-axis color shift. So when you're looking at the display off-axis, so from an angle, you do get a slight bluish tinge applied to the screen that is more noticeable on the S24 compared to the S23. Although, to be fair, when you're looking at the displays head-on, you don't see this. By the way, if you are enjoying this video so far, be sure to leave a like and also subscribe to see more videos like this in the future. Thanks for your support. Let's talk about the cameras. So from a hardware perspective, both phones pack a quadruple lens camera system. The main lens, the ultra wide lens, as well as the 3x telephoto lenses are going to be the same. However, the differences lie in that the S24 Ultra introduces a new 50 megapixel 5x telephoto, which will replace the S23 Ultra's 10 megapixel 10x telephoto lens. These phones also do their post-image processing quite differently, and this does show in the photos taken. So let's take a look at some real world examples. Starting off with the main lens, in general, I found the S24 Ultra to have a slightly warmer white balance compared to the colder look of the S23 Ultra. The S24 Ultra more effectively lights subjects within the frame and also has a slightly more natural bokeh. I like this example. It shows that the S24 Ultra does a better job at managing colors. The purple in the plant looks more vibrant, yet the metal surfaces around are not oversaturated and still remain balanced, where the S24 Ultra lacks the same color depth and seems to apply a bluish tinge. The S23 Ultra has a tendency to over-sharpen a bit, where by comparison the S24 Ultra looks more true to life. In this shot, if we zoom zoom into the grass, we can see that the S24 Ultra retains a bit more detail in the fine lines. The ultra-wide lenses are quite similar, though here again the S24 Ultra looks a bit more natural. Interestingly, at 10x zoom, they fare very similarly, despite only the S23 Ultra having that dedicated 10x lens. In fact, if we zoom into the buildings here, we see that the S24 Ultra retains more detail with less noise. Selfies on both phones are great, with good detail, depth, as well as dynamic range. The differences in color and contrast that we saw in photos carry over to video too. There's also a bit less noise on the S24 Ultra, but other than that, they are both quite similar. It is worth noting though that while both can shoot 4K video, only the S24 Ultra can shoot 4K at 120 FPS for super slow motion. Both are highly capable camera systems, and a lot of the differences lie in how each processes the images, for which preference will be somewhat subjective. That said, objectively speaking, the S24 Ultra does do a better job when it comes to detail retention, as well as lining individual parts of the frame and having more depth in the images overall. This ultra line of phone, especially the S24 Ultra, is expensive, so it is important to protect it, and this is where MagBag comes in. Now, MagBag adds not only protection, but also functionality to your Galaxy S24 Ultra, letting you mount it virtually anywhere. This is the MagBag case in black, and the case itself is made of a very grippy, an impact-absorbent silicone that is drop-tested for up to 6 feet. But my favorite feature of the MagBag case is not only that it adds MagSafe functionality to your Galaxy phone, but also that it is compatible with MagSticks, and this means you can virtually mount your phone to any surface simply by adding a MagStick, for example a kitchen, a wall, or a dashboard, and if the surface is already metallic, you can just place your phone to mount. The array of magnets inside the case also let you add accessories like this MagBag leather wallet, and because MagBag uses more magnets than traditional MagSafe, the magnetic strength is actually superior, in fact up to 2 to 3 times stronger than traditional MagSafe, which for a wallet is especially important. MagBag went even further by adding extra functionality, so you can also use the wallet as a stand to prop up your phone on your desk. It also has an integrated loop for grip, which on a larger phone like this is especially important, and it can hold up to 6 cards or cards and cash thanks to having dual pockets. This is a really well thought out product. To upgrade your S24 Ultra with MagBag, be sure to head to the links in the description and use code Dion15 for 15% off your order. But how does the battery life compare? Well, both phones pack a very large 5000 mAh battery, and each truly delivers exceptional all-day, even day-and-a-half battery life. But I have found that the S24 Ultra does get around 30 minutes to an hour extra of screen on time, and this I think is largely due to the fact that it does have a more efficient processor. Interestingly enough though, the S23 Ultra does perform slightly better at retaining its battery life when the display is off or on standby mode by around 15%. Each phone fast charges at up to 45 watts using USB-C and also supports, of course, wireless charging. And you also get Samsung's reverse wireless charging on both phones, which is a feature that I genuinely miss on other phones. And this brings us to performance. Now, unlike the regular Galaxy S24, by the way, I also have a comparison between the S24 and S23 video coming very soon. The S24 Ultra does ship with the same processor regardless of which country you buy. And here, the S24 Ultra does have a clear advantage, featuring the latest Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 chip versus the S23 Ultra's Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip, comparing basically last year's flagship chip from Qualcomm to this year's flagship chip from Qualcomm. Flagship chip. Say that fast 3 times. And in performance tests like Geekbench 6, the S24 Ultra sees around a 10% improvement in single-core and 25% improvement in multi-core performance. Now yes, these numbers show a noteworthy difference on paper when it comes to the performance, but I can tell you that from day-to-day use, both phones perform exceptionally well. Using them side by side, I can hardly tell the difference, and that is a good thing. Plus, both phones also run Samsung's latest One UI 6.1 on top of Android 14. The S24 Ultra launched with a bunch of AI features like circle to search, which is actually my favorite, as well as photo editing and note-taking features. But the most important thing is that all these features are now also available and run just as well on the S23 Ultra. Now, where the difference in performance will start to show is in the years to come, and this brings me to longevity. For the S24 Ultra, Samsung promises an impressive 7 years of software support, where by comparison, the S23 Ultra already used one of its 4 years of software support, and this means that the S24 Ultra will last around twice as long when it comes to new features, security, and software updates, and this I think is definitely worth considering. But for me, what puts these comparisons into context is price. So on Samsung's website, you can find the Galaxy S24 Ultra for $1,299 with 256 gigabytes. Now by comparison, you'll find today the S23 Ultra on sites like Amazon New for $838, also with 256 gigabytes, so a much lower price. So with all of that in mind, which of these phones is the better buy? So the S24 Ultra does bring some valuable improvements from its now flat, less reflective display, more durable build, better camera system, latest flagship chip, and significantly longer software support. But the S23 Ultra was and still is a very well-rounded phone with no major flaws either, and is now available at a much lower price. Here's how I see it. If you want the latest and greatest, the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra does bring enough upgrades and features to the table to where I think it will be worth buying. However, if price is a big factor for you, the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra does offer a better value proposition. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions at all, and as always, I will leave all the purchase links for both phones down in the description, and if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend you check out my S24 Ultra first 24 things to do video to unlock the full potential of these powerful phones. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.